Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson, and there's been a lot of talk lately of director of football and what that might mean for Manchester United. We've been linked to Berta from Atletico Madrid, and people are wondering perhaps what a director of football could do. Now, under Sir Alex Ferguson undertook a lot of the things that a director of football would do, maybe like the ethos, the planning, the projections of a team and what they're going to do. Now, the difference between what Fergie did and what a director of football would do is a director of football is going to sit in between the board and the manager, and is probably going to be looking to sack and recruit managers as well. Well, I'm not going to touch that side of things because I think there's too many caveats for that. I'm going to work on the assumption that I have been doing for the last 3-4 months that Mourinho is coming in as Manchester United manager. And if I was his director of football, there's a few areas that I would be looking to focus on in the immediate future. Now, here's my list. So the first one that I'll be focusing on is the immediate team, the starting at 11. What we're going to do with the starting 11. So I had a bit of a jot down and I thought, do you know what, this summer we're going to have to work on a lot of assumptions, but that's why we do it, isn't it? So the first thing that I thought of was I'll write down the players that I think are first choice in their position. And this is what I've come up with. Using the current 4-2-3-1 system, these are the players that I think are currently first choice in their position. Now, you'll notice I've got Romero in net. That's because I think Spanish Dave's going to be on his way come the summer, so we're not going to have him, and that's why Romero's there. I'm happy with Damian, I'm happy with Shaw, I'm happy with Chris Smalling. We need another centre-half. Happy with Schneiderlin, we need another midfielder. I think Matt is the first choice number 10, but I think that might change under Mourinho. Marshall's obviously our first choice number 9. Memphis is obviously our first choice left winger. We need a right winger. Now, there's obviously another couple of names that aren't on here. Fellaini being one, Wayne Rooney being another. I'm getting rid of both of those. I'm going to sell those and I'm going to look to bring in players that suit the new philosophy that I'm hoping Jose Mourinho is going to be going for. Now, I would be working with Jose to pull this philosophy out. I wouldn't be doing it all on my own. But these are the players that I think would make a massive difference to Manchester United's style of play. Now, one of them is a bit of a surprise, as we think he may have had a falling out with Mourinho at some stage in the past. But I think that both of them can work past that and make a better team for it. Now, what I'm going for is 2 up front. Now, Mourinho doesn't traditionally play 2 up front, but this is what I'm going for. Romero's still the first choice keeper. We're not able to get anybody else in at the moment. Jack Butland is who we're looking at, I think. We've got Damian Smalling, Ashley Williams, and Luke Shaw. Now, the reason for Ashley Williams is he's a Premier League player, he's of a good age, and he's a very, very high technical ability player. He's got good strength, he's got excellent reading of the game, good experience, and he's ready for the step up to a new club. I think he'll be a cheap buy, and he'll be a perfect transition player while we bring some of the youth through. And that's what my job is. I'm going to be planning to bring the youth through into the team and also line up signings for the manager in the future. As I said, happy with Schneiderlin. I'm going to try and pair him with Herrera for now in a midfield 2. Mahrez on the right wing, that's who I'm bringing in. Mahrez from Leicester. I think he's had a phenomenal season, and I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I think he's a genuine class player. Whether he's world class or not will remain to be seen if he can do it for Manchester United and on the big European scene. Now, I'm making another assumption here that we are in the Champions League, but if we can do it on a big European scene, then I think we can start calling this young man world class. On the left, we've got Memphis, up front Marshall, and another signing there in behind him. And I've gone for Premier League experience, you might notice as well, is Lukaku. Now, Lukaku is the player that we think might have had a falling out with Jose Mourinho, but Lukaku is the player that I think could definitely be one of the ones that comes in and makes a huge difference to this team. Now, you notice we've gone for wingers and we've gone for 2 up front. Now, I think that's going to be a big part of the philosophy that we want to see going forward. Unfortunately, the manager isn't going to be feeling 2 up front, so we might only go 1 up front, and we might see these lads played in a rotation, which means we probably need to be signing another midfielder. So that's a job for me to go and get on with, finding another midfielder for us. If we go back to the front, we have a look at the planned expiry. So planned expiry, what we're looking at there in terms of planned expiry, well, it's my job to move players on when they become no longer useful for the first team. Now, that can be the likes of Phil Jones. We're looking to offload him because we think he's come to the end of his usefulness as a Manchester United player. He's too injury prone, he doesn't start enough games, and he's probably still got a little bit of value in him being only 24 and English. So let's move him on. I can see him going somewhere like Everton. Maybe we make him as part of a mate weight of a Lukaku deal, who knows. Another player we're going to look to move on is Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick's been a phenomenal servant of Manchester United, but he is coming to the end of his usefulness, and him being in the squad is hampering the likes of Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Matty Willock, and other midfielders coming through into the first team. So he's going to be one that we look to move on. There's a squad of around 7 or 8 youth players that are on the periphery that we're going to put as part of the first team permanent squad for next season, and that's going to be Pereira, that's going to be Timothy Fosu-Mensah, that's going to be Rashford and James Wilson, and that's also going to be the likes of Cameron Borthwick-Jackson and Joe Riley. Another player that's going to be going out is Adnan Januzaj. I think Adnan's reached the limit of what he needs to do at Manchester United. I think he needs to go and play somewhere regularly, and maybe he can come back. I'm not sure another loan move would be right for him. I think a permanent deal, and I could see him going somewhere like Newcastle if they're able to stave off the drop this season. Part 3 of the job: future signings and developments. Now, Marshall was signed on deadline day, not because he was the best striker available in the world at the moment. Marshall was on a list. Now, this shows me that someone's already doing this job at Manchester United. I think we worked our way down a list, of which I think Thomas Muller was one of the high names up on that list, possibly even first on that list. And as we moved down the list and we was told no or not for sale or various things like that, we arrived at Anthony Marshall. Now, my job as director of football would be to identify and create these lists and then work down it, speaking to agents, speaking to clubs and seeing who we could get in. Now, Marshall, I think, was a player that we had planned on signing in 2 to 3 years' time after watching his development over in Ligue 1. But the time came that we needed a striker. He was on the list, we had the ability to do it, and we pulled the trigger. So when we talk about future signings and developments, that's one of the ones that we're looking at. We're looking at players that we know are going to take a little bit of time to mature. Maybe Phil Jones was one of those when we signed him from Blackburn a few years back. Maybe that was the sort of signing we was looking at just then. There was someone else I had him in mind then, but I fucking completely forgot who it was.
It's good to spell. Sounds good to spell. This is for full-time doubles or yourself?
My own.
Do you edit it yourself as well?
Yeah. Another big one on the list is ethos and philosophy. Now, ethos and philosophy can't come from a director of football. That needs to come from the core of the club, and the club needs to have this whole ethos going through them. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, I think we had an ethos, but I don't know if it was Sir Alex Ferguson's ethos or if it was truly the club's ethos. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson, he would probably tell you that it was the club's ethos, but I think there was a lot of his own personality in there as well, because Matt Busby didn't always play with wingers. Manchester United played with wingers in the 70s and the 80s when it was the fashionable thing to do, but it wasn't winning. So you can't say that our ethos was to play with wingers and win, because we wasn't doing that during the barren years where we wasn't winning league titles. The ethos of the club should come from the likes of Sir Bobby Charlton and Sir Alex Ferguson as members of the board, but it should also come from what the fans want and what is the core of the heritage and the fabric of Manchester United. And we know what that is. We know that's playing with youth, playing with freedom and attacking at will constantly. And that, I think, is how we need to implement our ethos. Now, Jose Mourinho, I don't think completely fits the ethos of Manchester United, which is why a lot of people have had issues with him taking over as manager of Manchester United. He is arrogant and he is a born winner, which we do like at Manchester United. So we're hoping that we can bend him a little bit to our will, and we will do that with signings, and we'll also be telling him that he needs to look to our academy, which is absolutely ram-packed full of exciting young talent. The final section of a director of football's job: scouting and recruitment. Now, this is obviously something that I don't really know a great deal about, but the lad that is potentially coming in, the one that's rumoured to be coming in from Atletico Madrid, Berta, this guy's an expert. If we look at Atletico Madrid and what they've been able to achieve in La Liga, competing against the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid, it's that they've always recruited very well. They've bought low and they've sold high. Whoever they've got that's scouting their strikers is a wonder kid. Honestly, the guy has unearthed so many absolutely fantastic strikers, and he's got them at their peak. Now, I don't know if that can be a combination of the management or the scouting or whatever it is, the coaching at the club. Whoever plays up front for Atletico Madrid scores goals, but they've also had some exceptional talent in there. We look at Fernando Torres, we look at Sergio Aguero, we look at Falcao and Diego Costa, who, although they've not really lit the Premier League up, they was absolutely banging the goals in when they was at Atletico Madrid. One of the key jobs that I expect a director of football to take on when they take over the job at Manchester United is repairing the relationships that Sir Alex Ferguson essentially severed. Sir Alex Ferguson would famously say there was no value in the market, and we almost stopped buying world-class talent and was mostly looking at B-level talent that we would bring in and develop and make it that A-class talent. And I think in world football at the moment, you have to have the blend. You have to be using your own, you have to be developing local talent from your own leagues, and you also have to be buying that stellar quality, especially for a club the stature of Manchester United. Now, Ed Woodward of recent times has made friends with George Mendes, and he's looking to repair that relationship with the so-called super agents to bring in the massive names, and that's why we saw the likes of Di Maria, and that's why we saw the likes of Falcao coming in on such massive buys. So we know we have the ability to do it, but we're doing it with one agent only. We need to spread our wings, and we need to have a coverage of several agents we are friendly with and have a whole network of recruitment that we are able to tap into whenever we need to, and develop a list of our future 11s going forward. So this isn't a one-off video. I'm going to do part 2 and part 3, where I'm going to look at the next couple of years for part 2 and maybe 5 years and beyond for part 3, and how I see the club developing, what players you would expect to come in and go out, and how our first 11 is going to evolve over that time. So thank you for watching. Stick it in the comments, anything you like. Let's get some discussion going about how we can move the club going forward. What you think a director of football is going to bring to Manchester United. Is it going to be this lad Bertha from Atletico Madrid? And anything else that you like to talk about. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.